Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan Nair, and here basically we are discussing about the formula parts, and the number is basically 214. So here basically till now basically what we have discussed, the chain basically, that is basically the software companies, what software companies is, software company, nuclear company, software nuclear power company, CRM example basically we have taken how basically the CRM project was first executed in the TCS company. Then all software products basically like CRM, payroll, banking, like this basically each and every software's products basically are executed in software company, and that list basically the nuclear power company have, and each and every company basically by defaults have basically, right? Because this was the biggest implementation for each and every power company. So TCS basically company basically have the data, right? Because this was the biggest achievement basically. Uh, but project managers, directors don't know that this was the achievement actually. Then basically the updation happens. For example, TCS basically has created that CRM software. So whenever the basically that hotels in hotel people basically keeps on updating the ideas, there basically ideas also will keeps on updating. That basically automatic happens. Basically nobody can't believe this, but this is the fact. Basically this all mapping basically the nuclear power company and energy company basically do that. So basically that people basically are the root of the crm ideas. So whenever their mind basically whatever according to the mind basically the works, their mind basically updates in crm. These people basically minds also keeps on updating. That is basically the TCS companies, project managers and directors. You can just imagine basically because the mind has connected with each other. So their mind gets changed. Here also basically minds gets changed. And this is basically very dangerous process. This is basically called as an automatic process. And this is basically mapped by the power company, energy company, and the nuclear power company. And this is basically the manual process, but it has set it as a automatic process. So you can just imagine basically the uh, process. So this also basically we have discussed. So then basically this is basically the example of updation. Basically you can say. So CRM product basically lots of people says that basically CRM update. Sorry, the Microsoft update is ongoing. So if you want to update, then basically you can update. So that basically is the updation of the software basically. Same way basically the power company do the updation of the CRM product. For example, they have created 35 buildings. Microsoft basically .NET basically or Microsoft company basically created new 35 buildings. So that 35 building is going to add, right? So their updation basically is required in software also. So that updation also keeps on happening. Then basically the world is digital, that basically everybody knows. Because for example updation happens, that happens through internet. So that is basically digital world, right? That is basically the digital, but the construction basically happening, that is not a digital basically. That is not a digital basically, right? There you have to create the buildings, you have to create the roads. That is the manual process basically, you can say. And there basically lots of automatic processes also basically there. Then basically the banks basically are connected with the power companies are connected with the energy companies, and energy companies are basically connected with the nuclear power companies. Like Microsoft is there. Microsoft is created assume from 1 lakh cities. So there 1 lakh city gets updates. Here the Microsoft products also gets update. SAP is created from 2 lakh cities. So 2 lakh city creates updates. Here basically the SAP products also keeps on update. Then basically the oxygen power supply of each and every human basically are by nowadays handled by the digital world. So that is also very dangerous because anybody can do anything. But this type, but many less people knows that the oxygen power supply is basically handled by the digital team. That basically many less people might be knowing that. Many less people knows that human bodies are basically connected with the oxygen power supply. This also basically many less people knows. For example, there are more than 700 crore people and 200 crore people in India. in Indian, sorry, the Indian, sorry, in India, basically there are 200 crore people. So they are basically connected with set of oxygen power supply basically. That is basically connected with the nuclear power company. So you can just imagine the dangerous level world is. You can't imagine basically the dangerous level world is ongoing basically. You can't really imagine basically. The world is basically connected with the dangerous situation basically you can say. Seven and here basically I will take one example. Assume that 200 crore basically Indian, sorry, 200 crore India population are connected with the three nuclear power company. Assume that, just assume. There, whatever things happens, that exactly the India land people are going to whatever things there has happened, the things basically is going to happen in India land also, India land people also, because the India body basically has created the blood cells which is basically created by the human bodies. Sorry, the human basically to for example, India basically have 200 crore people, and the 200 crore people have already taken the lots of foods which has basically generated the lots of blood cells, and which that food is basically created by lots of human um, each and every human needs has created the that foods basically. For example, CRM software. So CRM software basically is into vegetable creations. So this example I have already taken. 3,000 blood cells are basically connected with the CRM, this CRM software, right? This CRM software basically. So you can just imagine that 200 crore people, they are connected with this 3,000 blood cells, and that blood cells basically required keeps on oxygen. That blood cells basically requires oxygen power supply, right? And there are basically many blood cells basically which are temporary, but few are basically permanent. So that require the oxygen power supply. So that also basically we have discussed lots long before. Then basically we have taken as an example of the CRM brain cells basically. That hotel example, 5,000 to 6,000 people, 5 to 6,000 people are doing the CRM project. Means discussing the CRM project, and still basically the software company basically has never created the CRM projects, right? Software company basically never created the CRM project. CRM project is not created by the any of the software company. So like this, the CRM company basically, you can say that CRM is one company also. That also you can say that. See, each and every project basically, if you say that is equal to one company, then it would not be wrong. Why? Because CRM project is going to generate vegetables, and that vegetable is connected with a set of companies, right? So CRM equal to companies, that also basically you can say. But that is basically the big level companies and big level projects basically. For that basically. For example, one normal company, private limited company is doing CRM project. There is no matlab, they are not going to create the vegetables, right? They are just going to enter the data. Microsoft even basically might not be knowing that there is one CRM project which is getting created, because but they might be tracking through the log file, which data are basically getting entered. But special basically look basically they are not going to look. Why? Because it's not connected with the monitoring, right? So big level software company who are creating the CRM, their basically look is there. Why? Because it's going to create the human needs. It is going to create the human needs. It is going to create the human needs. So till now basically we have discussed this all this thing, right? So now basically we are going to discuss about the software companies. What actually software companies? What actually the software companies are? There are basically many types of software company, but real private company, limited company. Few company basically are not registered also. Microsoft company, SAP company, Salesforce company. These all are the base companies, right? Base companies basically who tells that in this platform basically you can able to create the software projects. So that is CRM software, payroll projects, and banking products. This all you can create. But if you are creating any projects, right, then basically base software is required. Without base software, basically you can't create the software, right? For example, CRM project, if you want to create, then basically something tool, basically some tools, basically you are required, basically, right? Without tool, basically how you are going to create the CRM software? So for that, C++ is there, Microsoft is there, SAP is there, Salesforce is there, PHP is there, Python is there, Python is there. Then as like this, basically there are many software companies who says that we are basically uh, into the software creation, basically. So like this, the main software companies are into the CRM creation. Not CRM, basically projects creation, basically you can say. So the project creation basically is done by these groups, basically, right? So software creation, basically the base software company basically says that we are basically into this. So why basically it's like that? There might be some reason, right? Because in this world, basically whatever you creates, that should have the physical location. That must have the physical location. For example, Microsoft product is there, right? Microsoft is one product for the computer industry, for the software industry, that have that basically is created on the base of 1 lakh cities. So 1 lakh city is equal to Microsoft. This also basically you can see. So this 1 lakh city is connected with set of nuclear power companies and energy companies. So everybody knows that who are basically into the city creation. Collectors are there, MLAs are there, corporators are there, the IAS officers are there. There are many people basically who are into this. So they basically know that this city basically is of the Microsoft. They basically has done the trademark that this city is of the Microsoft. Nobody writes that this basically building is of Microsoft. This city is of the Microsoft. Nobody writes like that, right? But the government document says that this city basically is created for the Microsoft. Text box is there. Text box that is basically created from the thousand cities. So thousand city basically contains the text box data, right? Text box that Windows the web application basically contains the text box, right? Where basically you write the name, you write the departments. Basically, department basically is the combo. But then also basically we will say that department. You write the department, you write the pin code. Each and everything basically you write in the text box. Right? That text box is created from the thousand cities. So government knows that. For example, in India, basically there is one city which is connected with the text box. So whatever data which is going to be entered into the text box, if that data is connected with that India location, then basically that process of that data basically is going to connect to that city. The process basically, because each and every CRM project basically is generating vegetables. So the CRM project means what? Set of text box, set of objects, set of combo box, set of radio buttons, set of process. So text box is one text process basically, right? Text box is one process. So that process happens in that city. So whatever data basically is allocated to the India country, that that much data process, it is going to happen in the that city basically. And Microsoft knows this. That is the main thing, right? Microsoft know this that text box data basically is getting processed in that India country. Microsoft know this. That's why basically they are Microsoft, and they are basically sitting in USA. That is basically the United States of America, near the White House. So that's why basically it's America. Each and everything basically America knows that. For example, India basically is one country where basically one text box city is created, and this text box city is going to process some data, assume related to some middle name. Assume, just taking as an example, middle name or last name. So that last name or middle name data, whenever it's going to come. So just see basically how the dictionaries are also connected, because here the dictionary is going to play main role. dictionary which is created by certain set of groups. Basically Oxford group is there, many groups are there basically who creates the dictionary. So they know that this is the middle name, this is the last name. So according to that, whenever the middle name and last name comes, that data basically is going to process to that city. That is basically in India, one of the cities there. Assume that it's in Bangalore. It's in Bangalore, sorry, it's in Karnataka. Assume that in Karnataka basically Bangalore city is there. Bangalore city is doing this process basically, that is the middle name and last name. So like this two data basically is getting processed in Bangalore city. They are doing the process and setting giving the back data to the power companies, that is basically the energy companies and then the nuclear power company. So computer is processing data with the help of the power supply. And here the main thing is, for example, suddenly light goes, light basically gets switch off, and that time basically the battery basically uses the that much process, right? Battery is basically getting used for the process of that much data. So that data basically are also changed. That data are also basically changed in the power company. So you can just imagine basically, you can just imagine the dangerous level, because that time basically supply is there basically in the environment. Lots of people says that sometimes basically whenever you go in the water basically, that time basically the sometimes current happens basically. There is no current, then also basically the current happens. So then the one of the person told that basically power supply basically gets power, sorry, the power basically company says that we are getting the power on the base of this is also one of the way, through water also basically we gets the power. Through water also basically we gets the power. So there basically the water do the processing. That time basically after doing the processing, the water basically gets the power supply data. Water gets the power supply data. So that time basically whenever the water is giving the power supply current, that time basically without any power supply in that water, that time if it's getting power, then basically the process basically has happened in that water basically, which was basically happening in that power plant basically. So that basically very rare happens. That basically you can say the error of subscription plan group basically, you can say they have sent the data and some conflict has happened, and due to that, but this basically very rare happens, very 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 rare. And you can say the 99 percentage data basically never gets wrong, and 1 percentage data basically gets wrong. If it gets wrong, then basically if assume that it's in rainy season basically, this type of data has passed basically, and that time basically that process basically executed in that quarter. That time basically the water is going to power supply the power, and that time basically the current is going to happen in that water. Without power supply basically the current is going to happen. So you can just imagine. And basically everybody in the environment basically if the power supplies, everybody knows that it's, that's why basically the buildings are standing. That's why basically the buildings are standing, right? Without basically the power supply, how the buildings are standing. That is also basically one of the person of the Bollywood asked the question. So Bollywood group basically knows each and everything. Why? Because each and every process are connected with the user stories. Connected with the user stories. One person basically told that Bollywood, in this city basically this disease is ongoing. This disease is ongoing. Then they suddenly told that basically you can do one thing. You can immediately change the power supply to this user story. This user story. So they have the data of 2 months. 2 months data they already have. So they told they have the user storage data also, that the this power supply basically is going to generate this user story. So Bollywood groups told that you can change this power supply, this user story power supply to that city. So they suddenly changed the power supply, and then basically the disease basically got, the disease basically number slowly got decreased. So you can just imagine the dangerous level. I'm basically not talking about the corona disease. Corona disease is totally different disease. That is also basically a set of user stories only. That is also basically a set of user stories only. So that is basically that each and everything basically Bollywood groups has tracked each and everything. that like this, like that, like that. If that will happen, this will happen. If that will happen, that will happen. If this will happen, then this will happen. So like this, basically, each and every user stories the Bollywood groups has tracked it. So that is also basically thing. So here, basically, again we will go back to the software company basically who says that we are basically creating each and every software. So here, basically, in software company, which are the post basically? That is the directors, the project managers, the developers, the testers, the quality department, the peons, the quality members, the project owners, the company owner, then the each and every people, basically the people who are doing into the cleaning side. So each and every basically staff basically connects to the one software company, right? Connects to one software company and they are doing their duties. They are doing their duties. And here, for example, there is one CRM project which came and which is going to generate one vegetable. That basically the project director don't know. Project director might be knowing if he is very close with the company owner, but the company owner basically knows. But there are basically many companies basically basically there are many companies which basically are the owners basically are connected with the Microsoft Corporation or any Salesforce or SAP employees. They basically know that the this project is going to generate the vegetable, but the company owner basically don't know. Why? Because he is connected with one of the employees of the SAP, Salesforce, Microsoft, Sales Microsoft. So like this, the things are also there. Like this, the software companies are basically designed up to the level, right? Like this, also things are basically there. So like these things also connects with the software industry, basically you can say. So like this, the chain basically generates like this. The chain is this. Software companies, software nuclear companies, CRM, TCS example, all software products, updation happens here, digital, then banks, power company, nuclear power company, software main company, and connected with the Microsoft SAP, oxygen power supply, roadmaps, and the creation of the brains of the software industry. So you can just imagine. So this is basically the entire chain basically of the software industry basically you can say. This is the basically the entire industry chain basically you can say. So you can just imagine basically the software chain basically created by the set of groups basically you can say. And this is basically created. It's not that it's not created. It is basically created by set of groups. Software is basically created by set of groups, right? Microsoft equal to what? Microsoft is created from assume that 3 lakh blood cells. 3 lakh blood cells, the Microsoft is created. Assume that .NET is created from 30,000 people blood cells. So this 3 lakh blood cells is the root of the Microsoft. So the Microsoft basically more spends their money to these blood cells to create one city. Basically, if you can imagine, are spending 15 lakh crore, then this 3 to 4 lakh people are there. Then basically, how much money he might be spending to this 3 to 4 lakh people? So you can just imagine basically, right? 15 lakh crore is the one city creation. There are basically 1 to 2 lakh city already created by the Microsoft. So that basically Microsoft knows that they have to take care of this many cities. These many cities. For example, one vegetable creation is going to happen from CRM project and assume that it's created in .NET. So .NET will be responsible for this vegetable creation, not CRM product, because it's created in .NET. It's created in .NET. But the data which is going to be entered, that is from the CRM software. Therefore, that data related thing basically, for that the CRM project is basically responsible. So here basically the things comes is data science project basically. CRM project is generating this whole CRM project is generating vegetables. Payroll system is generating fruits. Banking products are basically generating oils. Like this, basically, there are list of products. Assume that there are 2 to 3 lakh products in the market. They are generating set of human needs. They are generating set of human needs, and they are going to generate set of blood cells. They are going to generate set of blood cells, and that blood cells is connecting to the set of blood cells inside the body, and their reaction happens, and after that the energy comes into the outside the body, and that data basically is going to be used by the power company, energy company, and nuclear power company data. So to create one software also basically it's very dangerous, but for big company basically, for big company, because they will be responsible for each and everything whatever things is going to be happen. Like big company like TCS, Infosys. I'm not telling that TCS is basically used by the government. Infosys is getting used by the government. So basically, the TCS knows that they are basically has created the vegetables. So from software, basically, for example, TCS is telling that we have basically 100 to 200 software which is ongoing, products ongoing. So from software, basically, how much you are going to earn? Maximum, basically, you are going to earn 200 crore, 300 crore. Maximum, assume that lots of projects are ongoing, then basically 1,000 crore. But TCS like company basically they are having how many money basically. So the main income is this only, that is the human need creation. To if they are creating one apple in the market and doing the production of 1 crore apple per day, then and apple basically cost how much? 100 rupees. Assume that one apple is costing 30 to 40 rupees. So 30 multiplied by 1 crore. So more than 30 crore, right? So more than 30 crore, 1 crore multiplied by 30. So more than assume the 30 crore is the amount which is going to be earned. So minimum 30 crore is going to earn, because it's not possible that 1 crore is going to sell, right? So assume that basically minimum 30, minimum, not minimum basically you can say. So you can reduce that amount also, because each and every apple is not going to sell, right? Each and every apple is not going to be sell. Some might possible that due to some disaster, some few apple got destroyed due to some problem. Basically, so basically we can take like this amount 30 multiplied by 1 crore equal to whatever amount comes. In that basically few deduction happens. Plus is not going to happen. Why? Because the amount calculation of the apple is production is this much only. So we will not take the exact amount 30 multiplied by 1 crore. Whatever amount is going to come according to the selling, that much amount basically is going to be produced, right? That many amount is going to be income of the, that would be the income of the TCS. So like this here basically I have taken the example of the TCS. We can take the example of Capgemini also. We can take the example of Accenture also. We can take the example of Patani also. We can take the example of BMC also. BMC is also basically one of the big company in Pune. BMC is one of the big company in Pune. So like this eClerx is there, like this Emphasis is there. So like this all are basically the big companies. These all are basically the big companies, and they're basically they are not basically having the income from the software, right? The software income is there basically, but the major income is this human need creation only. So each and every software company basically are into the human creation, and this basically things is already done also, and lots of blood cells has also generated in the body also. So now they will be responsible for each and every blood cells which is already generated in the human body parts. And everybody knows that where TCS is, where Infosys is. So basically here the question is, who basically knows that this disease has basically came from this software? For example, one person basically got some headache. Assume that, just taking as a simple example. So Assume that that basically headache came from one of the software blood cells. Software blood cells, basically that blood cells, what happened? So here basically nobody knows that this headache is basically happened due to software blood cells by the normal blood cells by this blood cell. Nobody this basically knows. Whenever you diagnose the blood cells, that time basically doctor says that even basically sometime basically the doctor also basically don't know that this basically blood cells is connected with the software company basically because it's so critical, right? So doctor basically also can leak the information. Doctors also basically can leak this information. That's why basically very rare doctor basically knows who basically keeps the secret information. They only basically knows that yeah basically this blood cells is connected with this software company. This software is basically connected with this software company. This blood cells is connected with this software company. So like these things are there. So you can just see the chain basically connected. And this everything is basically done also. That is the main thing. That is the basically the main thing. Each and everything is created also. And now basically the maintenance process is ongoing. Now this maintenance process is ongoing. Like this, the maintenance process of the software company basically is ongoing. And each and every software company basically are in land only basically. They are not in the satellite. So here basically a thing basically which we are discussing it, the software companies basically who has created the set of software products. They are basically the base software products and they are basically into the software creations, right? So this is basically the CRM 213 part, and in 314 basically this is 314 basically, and 315 basically we are going to discuss a little bit more about the software company energy.